Hey everyone, just thought that I would make a quick video before starting work for the day. Um, One of the things that I've been thinking about recently is how much harder financially it is to kind of make it in America than it is in a lot of the places that I've lived. So if you didn't see my first video, my name is James. I've lived in Asia for a really long time, and before living there full time, spent a lot of time out there in general. And one of the things in Asia that I got quite used to and is very convenient and very easy comparatively to the US is the healthcare systems. So I have experience with the Japanese healthcare system, with the Thai healthcare system, and with the Singaporean healthcare system. So when I had lived in Thailand, so I don't know if the camera will pick this up, but I got a boxer's fracture in my hand, and so my fifth metacarpal right here, like I can't close my hand properly, and if I ever get into a fight or need to punch something for any reason, I have a big plate installed right here because I broke this is these bones right here in your hand are called the metacarpals, and I broke this fifth metacarpal into three pieces, and one of the pieces was sticking out of my hand, and so I needed to go to the hospital and have an immediate surgery to fix it because I was at risk of bone infection, and since there was bone that was exposed, which apparently is like really bad if it happens, so the doctors tell me, and my hand was just completely fucked, and I have traveler's insurance and stuff like that. And so the way that the traveler's insurance policy that I have works is that I have to pay out of pocket up front, and then I get reimbursed for it. So this, before insurance, was roughly equivalent to $10,000. After the insurance, it was about $1,000. So the insurance paid for about 90% of this, including the physical therapy and stuff that I needed to do afterwards. And then in Singapore, I've had an issue. I don't know if the camera will pick any of this up either, but I have a bunch of orthoscopic, they call it arthroscopic. Anyways, it's like a keyhole surgery. So I have multiple scars on my shoulder. I dislocated my shoulder when I was a child, interestingly enough. And ever since I dislocated it, the first time I dislocated it skateboarding, and ever since I dislocated it, sometimes if I just tweaked it in the wrong direction, oftentimes when I was sleeping and waking up, and you wake up and you're stretching kind of like subconsciously, you're not really in control of it, it would pop out. And the pain is the worst pain. And I've broken my nose, I've broken teeth, I've broken ribs, I broke my hands. Like, I am no stranger to physical pain. It is by far the worst. It is crippling. When my arm dislocates, I can't think of anything besides the amount of pain that I'm in. It is so crazy how much it hurts. And it's been happening to me probably once or twice a year since I was 12 years old or 13. So for the vast majority of my life. And I saw a doctor. So for the majority of my childhood and young adulthood, I was extremely poor. Not that I'm like rich or anything now. I'm lucky and I'm making a decent income, but times are very challenging, and who knows when that's going to end. And like, so the doctors that I've seen over here were very kind of like, hey, if we do surgery to it, it was called a Binkman or a Binkman lesion that I had on it, which is basically like you have a seal that's a ligament, I believe, that's around the sockets of your bone. So where your I don't know, like shoulder socket accepts the arm piece. There's like a seal around that. That's a ligament. And when I had dislocated it, I fell down when I was skateboarding, and I like forced the arm out of place. I basically like went up in the air like couple feet in the air and then came directly down on my shoulder, and it tore that ligament and created like a hole in it. And so whenever I lined it up, and there was downward pressure from the weight of the arm, it would just fall out. But it was completely stable aside from that. So very strange injury, but it was an injury nonetheless that that would cause me severe pain a couple times a year. And I generally put it back into place by myself. So, you know, I could put it on a table and then kind of like raise the arm up and finagle it into the right position. It would just kind of slide back in. And it's the weirdest sensation ever, because it's like you're in intense, crippling pain and then immediate relief once it goes back in. So I was generally able to handle this myself most of the time. I went to the doctor a few times in America, and then the feedback that I got was they're very discouraging for proceeding with surgery on it. And more or less kind of like this, not saying directly this is something that can't be fixed, but saying things like, well, if we did surgery, there'd be a long recovery time associated with it, and it would only give you superficial stability, meaning that if you loaded it with weights, like if you're weightlifting and you did snatches or something like this, then it would go out of place again. And so, you know, you can proceed with it if you want to, but they're very discouraging. Two separate doctors at a few years apart. And so I just kind of figured, okay, this is the way that my arm is. I'm always going to need to be careful with it. Every once in a while, it's going to go out of place. It's just, problem that my body has that I'm going to have to deal with forever. Well, fast forward to Singapore, as I got older, I'm 36 now. After about my mid-20s or so, you know, it wasn't always easy to put it back in. Sometimes it would take a long time. Sometimes it was out of place for like 15, 20, 25 minutes before I would finally be able to get it back in place. And part of that is I just get so exhausted from the pain that I'm in and trying to put it back in place. I'll just like lay on the floor or something like that for a couple minutes and then try to, you know, gather some energy and put it back into place again. And so I did this in Singapore. I could not put it back in. I was trying to put it back in. My wife at the time, I'm separated now, but at the time my wife called the ambulance for me, you know, and the ambulance came and I was like, hey, I can't get my shoulder back into place. They put me on a stretcher, took me into the hospital, had an ortho come in and put it back into place for me. And then he was telling me, he's like, I could fix this for you in 10 minutes. Like the surgery is super simple and super fast. And I was just like, well, I've talked to the doctors in the US before and they were very discouraging for it. And he was just completely baffled. He was like, this isn't a big deal. Like, you know, like seriously, the surgery would probably be under an hour. It ended up being about an hour and a half because of some complications, nothing serious or whatever. I guess that he just had a hard time getting to the things that he needed to get to or whatever. But yeah, I mean, so I had the surgery that was 60,000 Singaporean dollars. I think that's like 40 something thousand USD at the time that I had the surgery. I had to pay that out of pocket. That sucked, but my insurance reimbursed 100% of it, including all of the physical therapy and everything like that I've had. So 2 major surgeries when I was abroad and when I was in Asia. One because I broke my hand, and another one because of my arm. Total cost of which was probably around like 70,000 USD or something like this. Okay, cool. I come to America, right? And then so I have a girlfriend at the time, Japanese girlfriend. We go to Hawaii. We've since separated because nothing harsh or anything like that. I just came to live in Austin. She's Japanese. She's younger. She's in her 20s. And she was like, oh, I want to, you know, like come to Austin and live with you. But she doesn't speak English. And so I'm like, dude, like, no. Like us, no one here speaks Japanese. It won't. It's very different than Tokyo. She's from Tokyo. You're not gonna like it out here. You'll be miserable. We need to go our separate ways. Like it was fun while it lasted. You know, if I move back out to Tokyo or something like that, I could hit you back up. Maybe we could reconnect, but you'd be making a major mistake. And since I'm older and I have a little bit more wisdom and a little bit more life experience than you, I would feel guilty for allowing you to make this decision. So, I'm here by myself. We're in Hawaii first, so all kinds of tourists and stuff like that around everywhere. Do a helicopter thing, submarine thing in close quarters with just like random people from all over the place. So I come out to Austin. I'm staying at a hotel. I'm looking for the apartment that I'm going to stay in. I get a really, really, really bad throat infection to the point where I like can't talk or anything like that for a few days. And then I'm just like, okay, well, I'll just continue waiting this thing out. But then what happens is my throat starts to close up. So it's nighttime. I go to sleep or whatever. I wake up. It's like I'm breathing through a straw, like, like barely, and I'm freaking out because I'm like, I could really barely breathe right now. So I call 911. Right, mind you, I haven't gotten insurance yet. I just got back here to America. I now have insurance, but it's a process to get insurances in America, as I'm sure that 90% of the people watching this video in the future are probably well aware. And so take an ambulance ride to the hospital. They give me steroids and some kind of shot that helps me with the swelling. It brings down the swelling pretty quick. The hospital, super good, super pleasant experience or whatever. So then, after I'm in there and I'm getting treated and everything like that. And by the way, like after when I get to the hospital, I'm briefly in the waiting room because they're just like, we need to get you in. There's all kinds of people in the waiting room. There's some guy that says that he's in the CIA and people are following him and trying to kill him, obviously on drugs or something like that. The people, there's cops there. There are people literally running around. I guess that, and since the hospital service is the metro area, there's some prison or something like that that sends the prisoners to that hospital. It's crazy, right? It's crazy. And so I go in, and there's a lady there, like an administrative lady, and she's like freaking out about the bill or whatever, and like making sure, $2,000 something bill. Like can you pay this? And I'm like, yeah, I can pay this. And she's like, okay. And then like I pay it for her, and then she leaves me alone or whatever. But she was the whole experience was very money oriented, which was quite interesting to me because I'm like at a hospital and fucking dying, you know what I mean? And I have somebody that's like badgering me for fucking money while I'm there. And then couple days. So I pay, it's 2,000 something dollars. I talk to some friends or whatever because to me, I haven't been in America for a very long time, and I haven't been too involved in the medical system in America while I was here, young and younger. And so I'm like, okay, like, $2,000 ambulance ride, some medications at the emergency room. I stayed there for about 6 hours in a room for observation, and then they gave me some antibiotics and discharged me. And then I get a call from the hospital, like, a week and a half later or something like this. And they're like, hey, like you have an open account with us. You owe us like $7,000 or something like that. And I'm like, what the fuck, guys? Like, this is fucking crazy. And there's multiple different companies. So in the meantime, the hospital itself calls me, but then some company that the hospital works with also fucking calls me. So I have all of these people that are trying to get money from me all of a sudden because I went to the emergency room, because I got an ambulance ride and I went to the emergency room. So I call up the hospital directly, talk to a person that's over there. They look at my account. I get some kind of uninsured discount, and I owe them like $7,000 or something like that. So I'm just like, holy shit, like a sore throat, under special circumstances, but fundamentally a sore throat in America will cost me $9,000 motherfucking dollars, which is more money than what I paid for ultimately for a hand surgery and a shoulder surgery in Asia. Like, if that's not fucking broken, I don't know what is. That's insane, right? And so, yeah, like I was just kind of reflecting on and wanted to share that little story because I'm noticing, I make pretty decent money. Again, for right now, I'm fortunate, especially during these times. But money does not go very far in America. Like I feel much poorer here. Food, insurance costs, that shit, I feel much poorer in America than I did when I was living abroad, especially in Japan, because the yen is in the dirt right now. And so it's kind of like a really stark contrast where I'm just like, I could see how much a little bit could get me in Japan, which is quite a bit. And then I come over to America and that same amount won't get me fucking shit. And it's, and so I look at customer service at places. When I was in Hawaii, for example, a lot of the people were obviously not that were working at stores and restaurants and stuff like that. When I was hanging out with my girlfriend, going around, going shopping, buying stuff, going to restaurants and things like that, they were not happy to see me. They did not look like they wanted to be there. And I went to pick up some medicine while I was there for my girlfriend was having a headache, and so I was just going to get some Tylenol from the CVS or whatever. And there's a older lady in front of me that was just getting like some snacks, some little food, and counting out coupons. Like as she was getting it, for her snack cost was like $10 or something, like probably I don't remember off the top of my head, but like people are really struggling and they are really barely making it by right now. And even though I'm in a much more fortunate situation than a lot of people, I think like I'm feeling it like quite a bit too. Like it is fucking hard in America, and it's especially hard if you have to deal with the medical system in any sort of way. And like it just, I guess it's just sort of an observation. I don't really have any ultimate answers. Hopefully things will start to improve relatively soon. In certain dimensions, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's really hard out there. So stay safe and try to limit your hospital exposure, and unless you absolutely need to, which is really crazy to me. My girlfriend was talking to me, my ex-girlfriend was talking to me, Japanese girlfriend, the day before the night that I ended up going to the hospital, and she's just like, just go to a hospital, dude. And even though I hadn't been re-exposed to the hospital system like I was after I took the ambulance over to the hospital, there in the back of my head, I was still like, this is America. Like, I only want to deal with the medical system, and if I'm gonna fucking die, you know what I mean? If I don't deal with them anymore. People's mentalities from other countries is not like that, especially other developed countries. It's not like that. It's just like, it's your health. You're sick right now. You have to go to the doctor. Duh. Like, there's no thinking about it. But in America, there's always arithmetic. There's always a decision that you're making, where it's just like, am I gonna fucking, like, for some people, like for me, it's like, am I gonna take a fucking face kick right now financially to go to the hospital? But for some people, the equation is like, am I gonna ruin myself forever financially because I got a fucking cold right now? Which is mind-boggling that we've allowed this to happen in this nation. Like, it doesn't exist anywhere else. I don't know. I haven't been to the entire world. I've been to a lot of countries. I've gone to the doctors in a lot of countries. I've gotten medicine in a lot of countries. For America being kind of like the dominant world superpower, richest nation, fucking first world place that everybody wants to go to, right? Like, something that's super fundamental to everybody's life is just completely fucking broken. And it seems it's like criminal to me. And obviously there's the United Healthcare CEO thing that happened recently. Obviously I don't condone violence, and I don't condone murdering people in the streets or anything like that, but I understand it. Like, I get it. It's like, this kind of shit ruins families, like countless numbers of families. And so in places like Singapore, they have very harsh penalties for trying to smuggle drugs into the country, or for carrying drugs on you. If you're carrying more, I think it's 2 grams of marijuana, which is something that pretty much any state in the United States wouldn't give a shit about, for 2 grams. And in half of the United States, it's fucking legal anyways. in Singapore, they'll kill you for it. They hang you. And what the thought is, they interviewed this guy called Lee Kuan Yew, and he was sort of the pioneer of modern day Singapore and one of the greatest politicians, in my opinion, that's ever lived. And in an interview, there was some, liberal, touchy-feely person from Germany that was saying, about the death penalty, it's so harsh and this and that. And Lee Kuan Yew just like looks at her and he goes, when drug smugglers bring drugs into this country to sell them, they're ruining the lives of countless numbers of families, of Singaporean families. We're protecting those families. And so we would rather kill the person that's threatening that than allow them to threaten the lives. I'm paraphrasing at this point because I don't remember exactly what the quote was, but allow them to ruin the lives of countless numbers of families. And it's like, okay, well, like, look at America's healthcare situation. How many families and how many lives is this ruined completely unnecessarily just for just so that way the sea level at some of these insurance companies bring home a nice juicy bonus, that month, and they are making millions of dollars in their salaries plus bonuses and stuff like that, while people that broke in a bone or have some kind of a preventable disease, a sickness that could lead to a preventable death if they receive the proper treatment for it or something like that. Like, how many times does that exist in America? Because it's profit driven and it's money driven, and they have lobbyists in the government and stuff like that. We allow this to happen routinely. I don't know. Like, a lot of things need to change. It has to. I think that we're getting to the point where there's a substantial amount of people that are gonna fucking flip over the board if the board doesn't get rearranged in such a way where life is sustainable for a majority of people. And I think that increasingly, as time moves on and stuff like that, life is not sustainable for a majority of people. At my extremely fortunate situation that I have right now, I'm not thriving, and I would imagine that people that make $15 an hour, $13 an hour, I don't even know how life is possible for them, and it's very sad. And I don't know. That's just kind of my observation of living elsewhere in the world and then coming back over to America and being like kind of surprised that very fundamental, basic things about life are almost impossible to manage here. Really sad. Anyways, take it easy. I'll make another video soon. Bye.